Hi, my name is Mike. I live in a big city filled with noise, lights, and endless energy. But even in the middle of all this hustle, there's a part of me that loves the quiet moments, the times when I can lose myself in a story. Ever since I was a kid, stories have been my escape. My grandfather used to tell me the most amazing tales when I was little. The way he brought characters to life and painted vivid pictures with his words made me feel like I was part of those adventures. But my journey to learn English wasn't as magical as those stories. It felt overwhelming, like a mountain too high to climb. I remember feeling so frustrated, wondering if I'd ever get it. That's where my love for stories came to the rescue. Little did I know they would become the key to unlocking not just the language, but a whole new world of possibilities. Let's begin this journey together, learning English one story at a time. There was a time when I thought learning English just wasn't for me. No matter how hard I tried, the words didn't stick. I'd sit there with my books, feeling like I was climbing a mountain that had no end. Mike often found himself retreating to the quiet of the local park, a peaceful escape from the overwhelming frustration he felt while trying to learn English. It was his usual spot beneath a large oak tree, where the sounds of rustling leaves seemed to soothe his thoughts. On one such day, he sat there, staring at the English textbook in his lap, feeling defeated. The idea of mastering the language felt impossible, like climbing a mountain without a clear path. The park, however, wasn't just a place for solitude. It was also where he often met his friend Anna. Anna had a knack for approaching problems with creativity and enthusiasm, and she believed in the transformative power of stories. She introduced Mike to the idea of learning English in a way he had never considered, through storytelling. She explained how stories could immerse a learner in the language, making it engaging and memorable. Instead of relying on tedious grammar drills or vocabulary lists, Anna suggested listening to tales that sparked curiosity and emotion. She handed him a simple storybook, its cover colorful and inviting, with a title that hinted at adventure, The Boy Who Wanted to Fly. Mike opened the book, and as he began to read, something shifted. The story was about a little boy who dreamed of flying like the birds in the sky. The words painted vivid pictures in Mike's mind, a hilltop, the boy's hopeful gaze, and the wide open sky above. For the first time, English didn't feel like a foreign code to decipher. Instead, it felt alive, connected to feelings and imagination. That day marked a turning point for Mike. The stress he usually associated with learning English melted away, replaced by a quiet excitement. He realized that storytelling wasn't just entertaining. It was a window into the heart of the language, teaching not just words, but how they carried meaning and emotion. In the shade of the oak tree, with a simple story in his hands, Mike found the spark he had been missing. It was the beginning of a new journey, one where learning English felt not only possible, but also magical. Mike soon realized that stories were much more than just a way to learn English. They were a doorway to a world of emotions, curiosity, and discovery. Each story he encountered brought with it a unique experience, immersing him in new places, characters, and adventures. One story in particular stood out to him. It was about a young girl who was terrified of the dark. Every night she would hear strange whispers in the shadows, her imagination running wild. But one evening, she decided to face her fear, stepping into the unknown with a pounding heart. As Mike followed the girl's journey, he felt her fear and determination as if they were his own. He hung on to every word, eager to know what lay ahead for her. The story didn't just teach him vocabulary or sentence structure, it taught him about bravery, about stepping outside of his comfort zone. Through this tale, Mike wasn't just learning English, he was learning about life itself. The emotions woven into each story made the language stick effortlessly in his mind. Suspense, curiosity, excitement, and hope gave weight to the words, making them memorable and meaningful. Mike began to understand that when stories evoke strong feelings, learning happens naturally. With every story he encountered, Mike found himself not just understanding English, but also connecting with it on a deeper level. These tales showed him that learning wasn't confined to textbooks. It could be an adventure of its own, as thrilling as the journeys of the characters he read about. Next, as Mike delved deeper into the world of storytelling, the tales Anna shared began to feel less like lessons and more like personal journeys. Each story she introduced carried emotions and themes that resonated with Mike, making his learning experience transformative. One particular story, about a boy named Tim and his ailing grandmother, left a profound impact on him. Tim was a young boy from a humble background, living in a small, close-knit village. Despite their struggles, he and his grandmother shared a bond rooted in love and care. Every day, Tim would pick wildflowers from the nearby field and bring them to his grandmother, hoping to brighten her day. In return, she would tell him stories about the stars, filling his nights with wonder and imagination. But as the story unfolded, tragedy struck. Tim's grandmother fell ill, and her once vibrant presence began to fade. Determined to bring back her smile, Tim set out on a journey, seeking remedies and advice from anyone who would listen. The story wasn't just about his search for a cure. It was about the depth of his love, his fears, and his unwavering hope. As Mike listened, he felt an overwhelming connection to Tim's emotions. The boy's struggle, his devotion, and his resilience mirrored feelings that Mike could relate to, even if he had never experienced such a situation himself. The language of the story wasn't just in the words, it was in the heart of the narrative, in the unspoken understanding of love and sacrifice. Through Tim's story, Mike didn't just learn new English words or phrases. He learned how language could express complex emotions and cultural values. He came to understand that empathy, the ability to put oneself in another's shoes, was a vital part of truly grasping a language. By connecting with characters like Tim and his grandmother, Mike gained insights into how people express love, hope, and even grief in English. These stories also taught Mike about the nuances of the language, how word choices could subtly shift meaning, how tone could convey layers of emotion, and how cultural contexts added depth to simple phrases. A grandmother's loving advice or a child's plea held a universality that transcended language, but also highlighted its richness. Each tale Anna shared was an adventure, a lesson, and an invitation to explore the human experience. For Mike, they became a window into understanding not just English, but also the lives and cultures behind the words. In every sentence, he found a new way to connect with the world, to see beyond himself, and to appreciate the beauty of language as a tool for storytelling and connection. By the end of each story, Mike felt he had lived through the characters' joys and struggles, emerging with more than just a better grasp of English. He had gained a deeper understanding of humanity itself, a lesson far more valuable than any textbook could provide. As Mike grew more immersed in the magic of stories, Anna decided it was time for him to take the next step. She suggested that he try reading aloud, an idea that filled him with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Up until that point, Mike had been a listener, comfortably soaking in the narratives Anna shared. But now, the prospect of speaking the words himself felt daunting. Anna handed him a well-loved book, its pages slightly worn from use, and encouraged him to try. "The words are yours to bring to life," she said gently. Though her words were meant to inspire, Mike felt the weight of the task ahead. He worried about making mistakes. What if he mispronounced something? What if he stumbled and broke the flow of the story? Despite his fears, he opened the book and with a deep breath began to read. At first, the words felt strange on his tongue, like stepping into unfamiliar territory. He stumbled over some phrases, pausing awkwardly to correct himself. But Anna's patient and encouraging presence made all the difference. She listened attentively, her expression calm and supportive, nodding at his progress and offering quiet reassurance whenever he faltered. As Mike continued, something remarkable happened. He began to feel a rhythm in the words, a natural flow that carried the story forward. Each sentence became easier than the last, and soon he wasn't just reading, he was performing. He could see the characters vividly in his mind and felt the emotions of the story unfolding as he gave voice to the words. Reading aloud shifted the way Mike interacted with stories. He wasn't just a passive listener anymore. He was an active participant. The act of speaking the words gave him a new level of connection to the language. He could feel the weight of each word, the rise and fall of sentences, and the melody of the story's pacing. This process also boosted his confidence. By facing his fear of speaking English out loud, Mike discovered he was capable of more than he had realized. Each time he read, he grew more comfortable with pronunciation, intonation, and the rhythm of English. He even started to experiment with his tone, adding a sense of drama or excitement to bring the scenes to life. What surprised Mike the most was how reading aloud deepened his understanding of the stories. He began to notice subtle details he might have missed as a listener, how a pause in the text could add suspense, or how repeating certain phrases could emphasize a character's emotions. With each story he read, Mike felt more empowered. The act of giving voice to the stories helped him internalize the language and made him feel like he was part of the storytelling process. He realized that learning English wasn't just about understanding others. It was about expressing himself and contributing to the shared world of language and imagination. By the time he finished his first story aloud, Mike wasn't just proud of his progress. He was eager for the next challenge. The fear that once held him back had been replaced with a growing belief in his own abilities, a belief that reading aloud had unlocked within him. As Mike delved deeper into the stories, he discovered a new dimension of learning, one that went beyond the words on the page. It was in the vivid descriptions and the richly drawn worlds of the stories that his imagination came alive. One particular tale about a young girl searching for a mysterious key captivated him entirely. The story unfolded in a quaint seaside village, painted with vibrant imagery of windswept shores and glimmering waves. As Mike listened, he could picture the girl vividly in his mind. Her wide, determined eyes, the small rusted key clutched tightly in her hand, and the relentless curiosity that drove her to uncover its secrets. Every scene was so detailed and evocative that it felt like stepping into a movie. This immersive quality of storytelling was transformative for Mike. He wasn't just passively absorbing the language, he was actively engaging with it. As he followed the girl through her quest, searching caves, asking villagers, and even diving into the cold ocean depths, he found himself emotionally connected to her journey. Her hopes and fears mirrored his own as he faced his challenges with English, creating a bond that made the learning experience deeply personal. Mike realized that these vivid descriptions weren't just entertaining, they were powerful tools for learning. By imagining the scenes and feeling the emotions of the characters, he was embedding the words and phrases into his memory in a way that no textbook could achieve. The language became more than just sounds or symbols. It became a bridge to another world filled with colors, textures, and emotions. This visual and emotional engagement also made the vocabulary stick. Phrases like windswept shores or the weight of the key were no longer abstract. They were tied to specific images and feelings in his mind. He found himself recalling words effortlessly, as if the story had painted them vividly in his memory. What surprised Mike the most was how naturally the language seemed to flow when he was immersed in a story. Words that once felt foreign became tools to navigate the narrative, to understand the twists and turns of the plot, and to anticipate what might come next. The process felt less like studying and more like living through the characters' experiences. Through stories like The Girl and Her Mysterious Key, Mike discovered that learning English didn't have to be a chore. It could be an adventure, a journey into new worlds, guided by the words and emotions of the characters. The act of visualizing these tales allowed him to connect deeply with the language, transforming what once felt like a struggle into a source of joy and discovery. Each story, with its vivid imagery and emotional depth, became a stepping stone in Mike's journey. They showed him that English wasn't just a tool for communication, it was a gateway to imagination, empathy, and understanding. Among the many tales that shaped Mike's journey, one stood out as a transformative experience, a story about a boy named Daniel. This narrative wasn't just an adventure, it was a profound exploration of courage, resilience, and the power of self-belief. As Mike listened to Anna recount Daniel's trials, he found himself more than a passive observer. He was emotionally invested in every challenge the young boy faced. The story began with Daniel, a small boy with a heart full of dreams, living in a quiet village. He had heard whispers of a hidden land, a place where people communicated not with words, but through emotions, colors, and melodies. To reach this fabled place, Daniel had to pass 3 daunting tests. These trials weren't just physical obstacles, but reflections of inner struggles, doubts, fears, and insecurities. The first test led Daniel into a dark forest where shadows whispered haunting fears into his ears. Mike could almost hear those sinister murmurs himself, a chilling reminder of his own moments of self-doubt. Yet, Daniel pressed on, step by trembling step, driven by the faint glow of hope that lay beyond the darkness. Mike felt a surge of admiration for the boy's determination, realizing that his own fears about learning English mirrored Daniel's hesitations in that shadowy forest. The second test was a grueling climb up a mist-covered mountain. Each step was a battle as Daniel slipped and stumbled, his exhaustion growing with every attempt. But the image of the hidden land spurred him forward. Mike, too, felt the weight of his own struggles, the countless moments of frustration, the times he considered giving up. Yet, seeing Daniel persevere, fueled by a vision of what lay ahead, inspired Mike to reevaluate his own approach to challenges. The final and most powerful test was the one that resonated deeply with Mike. Daniel stood before a mirror, his reflection revealing his deepest fears and insecurities. The mirror wasn't just glass, it was a window into Daniel's soul, showing him all the things he doubted about himself. This moment struck a chord with Mike. The act of confronting one's own shortcomings was something he had avoided. Yet here was Daniel, trembling but resolute, choosing to face the truth. As Daniel looked deeper into the mirror, he discovered something remarkable. Beneath the fear was a wellspring of inner strength and courage he hadn't known existed. This revelation shattered the mirror, symbolizing his breakthrough, and opened the path to the hidden land. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Daniel, but for Mike, who saw himself in the boy's journey. This story wasn't just about passing tests. It was a metaphor for life's challenges. Mike realized that the trials Daniel faced paralleled his own struggles with language and self-confidence. The tale taught him that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Resilience, he learned, was built through persistence, one step at a time. Beyond language, the story carried a deeper lesson: the importance of self-belief. Just as Daniel uncovered his inner strength, Mike began to see his own potential. The act of learning English was no longer just about acquiring a skill. It was about discovering who he was, embracing his fears, and pushing through them to reach something greater. Anna's stories had always been entertaining, but this one left an indelible mark on Mike's heart. He realized that stories are not just vessels of language, but carriers of profound truths. They allow learners to confront their own challenges, reflect on their lives, and grow as individuals. Through Daniel's adventure, Mike gained more than new words or phrases. He gained a perspective on life. He understood that every challenge, whether in a story or in reality, held potential for growth. As Daniel reached the hidden land, Mike felt as if he had crossed a threshold of his own, into a place of courage, self-awareness, and possibility. As Mike continued his journey with Anna, he began to notice a profound shift within himself. It wasn't just about learning English anymore. It was about something much deeper: personal growth and self-discovery. One evening, after they had finished yet another story, Anna shared an insightful thought that resonated deeply with Mike. She explained that stories are not just a way to learn words or practice grammar. They are tools for revealing one's inner strength. They help connect not only with others, but with oneself. Anna's words had a lasting impact on Mike, who up until that point had seen stories mostly as a means to improve his English. But now he understood that the true magic of storytelling lay in its ability to touch the heart. It wasn't just about hearing words and phrases in a new language, but about discovering parts of himself through the characters and their struggles. Each story, whether filled with adventure or simple, quiet moments, allowed Mike to reflect on his own life, to confront his own fears, hopes, and dreams. As Mike looked back on the countless stories Anna had shared, tales of bravery, love, loss, and self-discovery, he realized that they had done more than teach him English. They had helped him understand the complexities of human emotion and the resilience of the human spirit. He thought about the boy in the dark forest, the knight slaying the dragon, and the young girl confronting her fear of the dark. All of these characters, in their own ways, had helped Mike understand the courage it takes to face one's personal battles. In each story, Mike found something of himself, whether it was the courage to push through doubts, the ability to believe in something bigger than himself, or the understanding that the journey was often more valuable than the destination. He started to recognize that the act of learning a language was not just an academic pursuit. It was a journey toward becoming a more self-aware, empathetic person, Mike also began to notice how the stories Anna shared helped him connect with others. He realized that as he grew more comfortable with English, he was able to understand the emotions and ideas expressed by people from different cultures. Through the lens of stories, Mike saw that language is not just a set of rules. It's a bridge that connects people, allowing them to share experiences, learn from one another, and build deeper relationships. The more he learned, the more he understood that each story carried a universal truth, something that transcended language and touched the very core of the human experience. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the air grew cooler, Mike sat quietly under the old oak tree, reflecting on his journey. The lessons he had learned through Anna's stories had transformed him. He felt more confident, more connected to the world around him, and more at peace with himself. His journey with English had turned into a journey of self-discovery, where the words, the emotions, and the lessons from each story had become part of his identity. As he looked up at the sky, Mike understood that the power of stories had not only helped him learn a language, but had also shaped him into a person who was more open, more compassionate, and more aware of the world and people around him. The transformation wasn't just in his English skills. It was in the way he saw himself and his place in the world. And he knew that the stories he would encounter in the future would continue to help him grow, not just as a learner of English, but as a human being. As the sun set on yet another evening of storytelling under the oak tree, Anna looked at Mike with a gentle smile. She knew that her time guiding him through these stories had reached its natural conclusion. She encouraged him to seek his own stories, to embark on his journey of exploration and self-learning. "You've come so far, Mike," she said. "Now it's your turn to find the stories that will continue to teach you, stories that will help you grow even further." For Mike, this moment felt like a rite of passage. It wasn't the end of his learning, it was the beginning of a new chapter. He realized that he no longer needed someone to lead him through every story. He was ready to explore the world of language and literature on his own. He felt empowered, knowing that the lessons he had learned through Anna's stories were now a part of him. They had shaped his understanding of English, yes, but more importantly, they had shaped his perspective on life. As he sat under the oak tree, listening to the rustling of the leaves in the cool evening breeze, Mike felt an overwhelming sense of excitement. There were countless stories out there waiting to be discovered, each with its own lessons, characters, and adventures. He wasn't afraid anymore. The confidence he had gained through his journey with Anna made him ready to dive into these stories on his own, knowing that every new word, every new phrase, and every new character would bring him closer to a deeper understanding of the world and of himself. With his heart full of gratitude, Mike stood up, looking around at the world around him. The language that had once felt so foreign to him now seemed like a tool of endless possibilities. He had learned not just English, but how to embrace life's challenges with an open heart. And as he walked away from the oak tree, a sense of peace settled within him. The stories he had shared with Anna would stay with him forever, their lessons embedded deep in his heart, guiding him through every step of his journey. Mike's journey was far from over. He knew that stories would continue to shape his path, pushing him forward and helping him grow in ways he had yet to imagine. There was so much more to discover, so many more lessons to learn, and so many more adventures to embark on. And he was ready to meet them all head-on with the confidence and courage that only stories can give. The journey forward, filled with endless stories, awaited. Mike's journey of learning English through storytelling offers powerful insights for anyone looking to learn a new language in a more enjoyable and impactful way. Here are the key takeaways from his experience. Learning English can be joyful and meaningful through stories. By shifting his focus from traditional language study to immersing himself in stories, Mike discovered that learning English doesn't have to be a stressful or tedious process. Instead of memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules, he was able to absorb language naturally through the characters, emotions, and adventures of each story. This approach made learning not only more enjoyable, but also deeply meaningful, as it allowed him to connect with the language on a personal level. Stories teach language and empathy. As Mike listened to the stories Anna shared, he realized that storytelling is much more than just a method to learn new words. It's an immersive experience that allows learners to understand and feel the emotions behind the language. Through the struggles and triumphs of characters like the boy who loved his grandmother or the girl searching for a mysterious key, Mike didn't just learn English. He developed empathy and a greater understanding of human emotions, which is essential for mastering any language. Life lessons are embedded in stories. Stories carry powerful life lessons that go beyond vocabulary and grammar. As Mike navigated the challenges and adventures within the stories, he learned about courage, resilience, hope, and the importance of perseverance. These lessons extended far beyond the page, helping him grow as an individual and become more confident in facing his own fears and challenges. Building confidence in a natural and engaging way. One of the most transformative aspects of learning English through stories is how naturally it builds confidence. Mike's fear of speaking and reading aloud was gradually replaced with a sense of pride and accomplishment as he began to participate in the creation of the stories. With each story, he gained more confidence, not just in his language abilities, but in his ability to tackle new challenges, both in language and in life. In the end, Mike's journey illustrates that learning English through stories can be a dynamic, enjoyable, and deeply enriching experience. By embracing stories, language learners can engage both their hearts and minds, gaining not only linguistic skills, but also the confidence and wisdom to navigate life. So, whether you're just starting to learn English or looking for new ways to enhance your skills, remember, the power of storytelling is a tool that can take you farther than you ever imagined.